If you look at yourself, if you think of it where you were last year and where you are now, you tell me, have you shifted from searching to asking questions? So it's a little bit of a shift what we approach for. The basic fundamental SEO hasn't changed. You have to layer it on top of it to kind of add that content or answers for what the users are looking for. But at the same time, we have to make sure that the machines are also understanding that content, right? At the end of the day, it's all about the customers, right? It's all about adaptability because it's changing so fast. Every organization in some form or shape has a gold mine of that information, right? But it's very much fragmented. It's on all different places. It's not centralized. And I really feel that's the biggest challenge organization is having to deal with.
Ali Harris, welcome to Coffee with Experts. Good to have you.
Thank you, Austin. Great to be here.
It's great to be here as well on a fine Monday morning. I want to jump right into it, actually, and talk about building marketing systems that scale. What does that actually look like? Like, what is building marketing systems at scale? What does that look like in the post-AI era that we're in today?
Yeah, that's $1 million question, Austin. I'll let you know as soon as I figure it out myself. But it's all about adaptability because it's changing so fast. So the question becomes, hey, what are we doing to make sure that we are there where our customers are? At the end of the day, it's all about the customers, right? Be it they are on Google, are they on Instagram, TikTok? Now it's a question of that, hey, are they on ChatGPT? Are they on Perplexity? If they are, what are we doing to make sure as an organization that we are there where our customers are? So that's how we see it, and that's how we actually approach it. And that's the question we try to answer.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, customers are going from Google to ChatGPT or Google to Claude, Perplexity, et cetera. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to change everything about our traditional SEO. There's this machine layer that gets laid on top of traditional SEO. So on your end, what changed about the way that you're approaching SEO or visibility in search?
Yeah. So the way I see it, I don't say it's a change necessarily. It's a shift, right? Shift from searching to asking questions. So if you look at yourself, if you think of it where you were last year and where you are now, you tell me, have you shifted from searching to asking questions?
Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So that's exactly the shift we are talking about, right? So the thing is, then comes the, hey, are we shifting our strategy on optimization or not? So now the users, for example, somebody is shifting from searching men's suits to asking question, what should I wear for my summer wedding, right? So then we have to shift our approach to kind of make sure that we are able to answer Austin's question. Austin is going for this wedding. Do we have that answer available or not? If we don't, then we have to make that change. So going back to, so it's a little bit of a shift what we approach for. The basic fundamental SEO hasn't changed. Going back to your question, right? You still have to do the page titles, descriptions, all the rigmarole of the standard SEO best practices. But you have to layer it on top of it to kind of add that content or answers for what the users are looking for. But at the same time, we have to make sure that the machines are also understanding that content, right? Because we have to optimize for the machines. So we can talk about it if you want.
Yeah. So I remember your presentation at eTail, and I remember the example you used of, summer suits or like summer attire, or I have this wedding that I'm going to, and I need the suit delivered in a week. And these are all additional layers that are being asked now in prompt queries rather than just specific keywords. So we're talking about semantic understanding of what the user is trying to get. They're trying to find an answer. They're not specifically searching for men's suits anymore. So how are you shifting content production to cover all of these like semantic variations, query type of fan outs in order to tie it back to a topic cluster or a traditional keyword?
Yeah. So we are actually starting with asking the questions, right? So we are asking, and there are hundreds of thousands of questions or prompts, you may say. So we are, as you said, we are clustering it that, hey, how can we cluster it in a certain group then in most of the cases, we are seeing that it should cover majority of that topic, right?
Mm,
And that includes, for example, what you said, right? Type of suits, clothing, delivery, timing, all of that question when you answer that, right? So you can, for a lack of better term, you can templatize it. I don't want to say it because obviously the answer that AI is given is different, going to do different for you or for me. But to be honest, in a bigger schema,
mm,
it is kind of around the same question that we are trying to answer. And
right.
that's how we kind of approach it. So we are definitely adding frequently asked questions. And what
Mm,
we are doing is and going into our databases. Every organization in some form or shape has a gold mine of that information, right?
mhm,
Like, hey, is there helpline, what people are searching for? Take a look at it, try to group them, and then we are creating content. We are definitely beefing our product descriptions. We are, as I said, frequently asked questions. We are trying to say that, hey, is there a journey? Are we talking about what is the best suits, for example, to wear for summer weddings, right? So things like that. So that's how we are approaching it. I know I'm kind of generalizing it,
mm.
but it very much depends on the industry you are in and what exactly your customers are looking for.
You brought something up, which is most brands and even agencies have this gold mine of data. And from what I see is businesses are just now learning. It's almost like they had an awakening. They're like, "Oh my gosh, people are engaging with our brand. They're engaging with our industry in non-obvious places." And some of it might be, now reflecting back, some of it might be as obvious as if you have a chat widget on your site, you can see that history of what clients are asking when they first land on the site. They're looking for navigational queries, they're looking for, the specifics. What other sort of data sources are you tapping into in order to find some of those maybe fan out queries, or what the user is asking in different points of the customer journey that are maybe non-obvious as compared to 12 months ago?
So we are definitely looking at reviews, which is also quite obvious. So for example, you go to Google reviews, you have thousands of reviews over there. We are looking at product reviews. For
Mm,
example, people are going into those product writing reviews, and normally people end up writing reviews when they're not happy about it.
right.
So yeah, so that actually kind of tell us much more insight rather than say, hey, it's an awesome product.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
what you don't like about it? So then you can gather that information. One thing I definitely want to bring it up, as you also said, right? There is information of gold, like gold mine information, the way I say it, but it's very much fragmented.
Mm,
It's on all different places. It's not centralized. And I really feel that's the biggest challenge organization is having
mm,
to deal with. So, for example, as I said, product review, I have it sitting somewhere else with a certain different group that I'm working with, right?
mhm,
There's another one, Google reviews, sitting with the Google reviews.
mm,
But that's in itself as an effort to kind of bring all of that together, right?
mm.
And then serve it where the customers are.
Hey, we hope you're enjoying the coffee and the conversation so far. This show is powered by Digital Web Solutions, and if you've ever wondered how the biggest brands actually build authority, this is it. DWS has a massive network of over 250,000 publishers, real sites that help you rank on Google, and more importantly, stay visible in AI search. It's the heavy lifting most teams just can't do on their own. As a thank you for listening, they're offering an exclusive free strategy call just for our eCoffee listeners. It's a great way to map out your authority plan for 2026. Just click the link below to book yours and see how they can help scale your brand. All right, now let's get back to the show. It's a good point. This data fragmentation, and I think there's, the word that I use is data fatigue internally as a business. It's like, where is the central source of truth for the data that our customer, everything about our customer persona, like where does that live? Because a different persona may be on the Google reviews versus, the Reddit threads versus everything else. So combining that all into one place, how does combining all of that data together actually help I guess, how does it help the user journey when they're looking to engage with your brand?
Exactly. And to be honest, that is the biggest challenge. It's not only like to a certain organization, it's across the board. I've spoken to so many people.
Hmm.
Because the thing is, there are amazing vendors, partners, tools, services out there, but you hit a roadblock if you can't get them the right information, right? So
Hmm.
it then becomes garbage in, garbage out situation,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Or minimal information. And that is something that I think so every organization is.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. So we're going to get into AI agents and kind of AI agent optimization and what that looks like in terms of technicality, like actual technical SEO, content structuring, to look at how do we please the algorithms, the algo gods, as well as
Sure.
deliver valuable content to the humans. I guess, before we get into that, maybe an obvious question or maybe not so obvious is, with everything changing, what sort of KPIs still matter in this post
Mhm.
AI search era?
Again, asking a really good questions. A lot of people are asking that, hey, how do you measure success? Right?
Mhm.
Even if you're working internally within an organization, hey, we are going to put this effort. How are we going to measure success? So
Mhm.
one of them, the couple of things that is across the industry that gets floated around is the visibility, hey, the AI
Mhm.
visibility. My challenge with that is if you ask four different teams or four different partners, you will get a
Mhm.
different AI visibility score. And the reason is because
Mm.
it's not standardized. So if I work
Mm.
with, if I look at tool A, tool B, tool C, different visibility score. However, we
Mm.
still do leverage that KPI. The reason is because it gives us some kind of a benchmark,
Right.
right? So for example, if it's a Austin AI visibility tool says that, hey, it's 5, and we
Mhm.
are going to create content for ABCXYZ. And then Austin comes back. They said your visibility score went up or went down. At least I have some benchmark.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
other one is citation and mentions that we look at.
Mhm.
Citation and mentions are actually much more quantifiable, in my opinion. The reason is because then you can actually go and see that it was cited or not, or it was mentioned or not.
Mm.
If Austin tool is showing that, hey, the citation is actually X number or X percentage, I can actually manually also spot check it versus mentions also. So that's where I really feel the citation and mention is a good KPI for me to kind of look at. And for example, if I'm creating content around it. So that's our approach to it. Is it right or is it wrong? To be honest, I don't know. That is our best approach. And if
Mhm.
you ask me tomorrow, our approach might have completely changed.
It's the nature of the industry that we're in, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everything's changing day by day. And
Yeah.
remind me, was it, I could be misremembering, was it you that was talking about the AI log, almost like a manual log where you're
Server logs.
tracking these? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's a common thing that people are actually measuring. So, for example, they're looking at server logs, but it kind of just reflects how much your chatbot is actually hitting your server.
Mm.
Does it show? Does it mean that it's gonna hit visits? Kind of the same thing. Your Google bot can be coming and crawling your site, but does that mean it's ranking?
Mm.
Not necessarily. It's just probably indexing your content. So
Mm.
at least that's one step closer, right? So server log is a good place where you can see that, hey, if the ChatGPT bot or the bot is coming and hitting it, if there is no technical roadblocks, which is actually holding the bots to come and crawl the site. So yeah, server log is a good place to look at from a technical implementation perspective to make sure that the lack of better word again, that the floodgates are open.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that,
No.
that people are querying or yeah.
That you are getting cited or you are getting mentioned,
Yeah.
because the key piece of it is trust is so much important. And that's where I'm sure you already know about it and the listeners know about it is Reddit, right? Why is
Mhm.
Reddit so big? Because of the trust, right? Because they're saying, hey, this is what people are talking about, what to wear for summer wedding
Mm. Mhm.
versus me talking about it. Obviously, I'm going to talk about it as Men's Warehouse.
Yeah. Right.
And that's where the trust factor comes into play. In this thing, everything else, going back to your original question, SEO fundamental is absolutely there. Technical part is important because you want to give more information. You can have, for example, content available as we talked about it, right? That we can have all like very detailed product description, frequently asked questions, and all that information needs to be structured data or schema marked, right? Because then it can ingest that information.
Mm.
Yeah, all that information is there, but make sure that the bots can actually pick that content up. All of that is absolutely right. But then again, if people are not talking about it or people have no good feedbacks or positive feedback about the product, it would definitely make a difference.
I mean, the foundation to all of this, which is not SEO related, it's product related, is
Mhm.
create a good product and have good things to talk about. That way, when you're creating the content, it's link worthy. Other outside factors and offsite is something that we'll get into momentarily. But that's what I keep hearing is the fundamentals of creating link worthy content, unique, net new content. And it could be from all kinds of different areas, different factor, like you said, Reddit threads, reviews, all kinds of personal experience to create that content. I guess my next question is we're talking about visibility, whether in search engines or whether that's within LLMs. And typically the LLMs are taking a neutral stance. Is there a way where we're optimizing content for more of a directive stance, I suppose, when a user puts in a query and says, "Hey, I'm looking for, this a men's suit for my cousin's wedding in 2 weeks and I need it within the next 7 days." Is there a way that we can optimize our content so that when Men's Warehouse, let's say, is cited, it's actually saying, "Hey, not only is this information, but I think you should go with this provider versus that provider."
Yeah, yeah. Because again, it's going into the details, right? So when you say like, talk to me more about when you say provider. So like Men's Warehouse versus its competitor.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because again, and the thing is, what LLM is actually looking for is comparative data too,
Mm,
right? So now when they're asking questions, people are putting in, hey, this is what my height is. For example,
mm,
I want something that is much more cooler. And that's why there also a lot of study has been done that if you create a long form content, it's good to have a comparative tables, right?
mhm,
That, hey, you want to compare suit types, suits brands, material, because then that will help LLM actually to kind of say that, hey, this product is better than, for example, a product being sold at ABC or XYZ,
mm,
right? So as you said, hey, if it's Macy's, if it's a Nordstrom rack, right? So then it's actually looking at comparing information based on what you're looking at. So yes, it will give and prefer something. It can be based on prices too. It can be based on promotions. You can say that,
mhm,
hey, I want a suit for less than $300.
mhm.
But if a Men's Warehouse doesn't have anything for less than $300, then it's definitely not going to recommend us. It's going to recommend somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that kind of leads us into the next portion of this, which is AI agents making decisions for the humans.
Mm.
Right
Yeah.
now, right? There's a human, there's several queries in between the human and getting the result. And what
Yes.
you're saying, and I would like to hear, kind of how you're approaching that, or maybe lay the foundation for the audience of like what's changing or what we're talking about when we're talking about actual AI shopping agents.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is like really exciting.
Yeah.
Just talking about is giving me goosebumps right now. Because with the current state of LLM, right, the ChatGPT's perplexities of the world, humans are in the loop.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I search for it, summer wedding, it shows the product. I'm still clicking on it, goes to the website. Or for example, if it's an app built into the ChatGPT, it will show up over there. I can still click on it. They're already exploring to take that whole human loop out of the equation. I'm
Mm.
not sure, a few weeks ago or a few days ago, OpenAI announced that product called Operator,
Mm-hmm.
where actually if it's an agent where I prompt, for example, that, hey, I want a suit for $300, that's my height. It will show me a whole browser and it will show the agent going to the site, clicking on it, every single process. I can go away. And
Mm-hmm.
it went all the way to the checkout. They said, hey, either you take it over from there or give me your information. I will go ahead and order it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same concept, and I'm sure the listeners have heard of it, the open claw. It was all over the place, all over the news, right? So
Oh
if you
yeah.
if you think of it, it's an agent. I've been playing around with it. It's just absolutely mind blowing, right? Because now I'm telling the agent that, hey, this is what the topic I want to create. It creates the content based on my direction. It can actually send it to me for me to approve it. If I have full confidence after the content it's creating, with the API connects to WordPress, publish the content while I'm fast asleep. I have everything scheduled, right? So I know that, hey, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, do this research. Go ahead, for example, Reddit,
Mm-hmm.
crawl all of these sites, identify what people are talking about, give me a topic, I will approve it, and then publish it. So it's all, to be honest, it's already there. And that's where the shopping is going to be. The biggest challenge right now is the checkout because they're all different kind of, for example, ACP, UCP, Google is trying to integrate stuff. Again, it's not standardized yet.
Mm.
Is
Mhm.
it going to happen tomorrow? I don't know. Are users ready to adapt to it? I really think for suits, for example, I still want to look at it, feel it.
Mhm.
But if you're ordering groceries, why not?
Yeah.
You just go ahead and tell your agent, hey, I'm out of eggs, milk, this, and they already know this is what you buy. It will go ahead and order it and it will get shipped. The next thing you know, it's at your door.
This introduces a really interesting, and I just want to raise a red flag for the audience who is in a brand versus an agency, because imagine you have a shopping agent, let's use groceries for example, and you say,
Hmm.
all right, here are my 50 things that are recurring purchases for me. And if we're talking about something like toothpaste, there's probably a setting, whether it's hidden or not, right? Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. There's probably a
Yeah,
setting that
yeah,
says, I like Crest toothpaste, the optic white version with the
yes.
3.4-ounce ones. And
Yeah.
unless you go and manually change that setting, you're locked in to that
Yeah,
brand.
you are either logged in or it knows your pattern, what you have been buying before.
Yeah.
So, for example, if Austin says, hey, go ahead and order toothpaste, how does it know if it's going to order Colgate or any other brand,
Hmm.
right? Are you available? Are you optimized for those machines? That's
Mm.
where it comes to it now, right? So now it's not even a front end, it's not even a website anymore.
Hmm.
Are you optimizing for the machines to kind of pick your product or giving the right information where you say, hey, I want a toothpaste that can do A, B, C, X, Y, Z versus something else, right? Or if you
Mm.
want like, hey, organic eggs from grown hens, I want the eggs from those sellers, right? Or Safeway versus some other grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because now, I've heard of nefarious uses of prompt injection, which is essentially,
Mhm.
where an agent will go to a site on a command by the user, and the site that it lands on has a hidden command that somehow gives additional instructions to the LLM that the user did not originally prompt it. And I'm wondering if this agent shopping experience and the optimization of the brand, if there's a way to, I guess, ethically use things. Maybe it's not called prompt injection, but it's some sort of
Correct.
back and forth with the agent to say, "Hey, I know you were instructed to find uh, a suit, and these are the user's criteria." And typically, the agent would be on one path to say, "I'm going to go straight to the competitor." If there's a way for Men's
Right.
Warehouse to jump in the way and say, "Hey, by the way, I'm not trying to like manipulate you over here, but I do want to prompt an instruction to the agent to say, if these are your parameters, consider this option as well. Here's why." Is
Right.
that,
Right.
am I
No, no,
crazy?
no, no, no. Right now, there is nothing called craziness
Yeah.
because I really feel your concept, it can be injected through ads,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Right. If you think of it, hey, naturally they picked it up, but then they interfere in between
Mm,
that, hey, Macy's goes in between or somebody else saying that, hey, we have actually very similar product. And then you can inject those
yeah.
during the process. Yeah,
Yeah.
possible. Absolutely. Anything is
Man,
possible at the moment. Yeah.
that is that. And what a wild world we're living in, man.
Yeah,
This is, yeah, this is
absolutely.
this is the absolute wild west. So what other, I guess, kind of going down that train of thought where these things are starting to happen and we're starting to see the world shift that way, like you said, like, is the world ready for it? Are consumers ready for this leap in releasing control? Going down that path, is there anything, I guess, what else is really interesting to you that you're seeing or that you're testing that you'd like to share or can share?
Yeah, agentic commerce is definitely a big one, but again, that's also very, very early stages because I really
Hmm.
feel that PPT is also trying to figure it out. So the part that we definitely want, and I think so, the presence is within these surfaces, the way I call it, right? So, for example,
Hmm.
surfaces is the ChatGPT surface because now you have built-in app, right? So you don't even have
Mm.
to leave ChatGPT. So they have been working with a couple of vendors where they have built-in apps. But again, I'm reading some reports where the vendors or the partners necessarily doesn't want to do that anymore. Reason is because the tracking is not in place.
Mm.
So they are losing, for example, they're losing, or you may say they're getting traffic from it, but there is no accountability per se. So for example, if I'm seeing a drop in my organic traffic and X percentage. Does it mean that it's moved towards ChatGPT or not? It's kind of a question mark.
Yeah.
And that's the part we are trying to figure out. We are trying to be very engaged and active, but at the same time, we don't want to just jump on every single bandwagon that comes our
Yeah.
way because there's so many things going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, kind of on that same path, I definitely want to touch on offsite
Mhm.
reputation, authority building. Largely what we do at Digital Web Solutions is on the digital PR side because that's what we're seeing being cited, but it's just sending authority signals to both SERPs, which is basically like the base layer where LLMs go. They still look for ranking factors. And then out of those ranking factors, then they will do an additional, we call it like a machine layer that looks for, like what do I call it? Like the syntax or yeah, they're looking for that. So tell me a little bit about how you're thinking about offsite in terms of building the brand.
Yeah, offsite is always important, right? Because if you step back a little bit, right? So we started with content. We need to have content on site. We have to have technical piece of it. And then we talked about like, hey, the structured data is important. Then we talked about offsite. That is more on a community piece of it. That is Reddit, what people are talking about it. So obviously you don't want to go in as a promotional piece, but as helping and participate in that group. The other part of it is offsite. And that also comes in together with, for example, Reddits of the world, where you want to, and again, the word linking has a lot of reputation, good and bad.
Hmm.
But as long as it makes sense for the customers, it is important because Googles of the world, LLMs of the world does look at what, for example, the GQs of the world is talking about, for example, a certain brand versus they are not. So it
Hmm.
does play an important role. So be it be PR, if there is a PR, if there is the word gets out, and that's the part of the trust comes into play. So yes, we do, but we really look at it in a very cautious way, and it has to be in a very natural way. So we don't go around asking for links,
Hmm.
but we create content, for example, which is relevant for the users, and the links then comes to us naturally across the board because we are very very careful about this that other than that. So for example, I'll give you an example how to fold, for example, a suit when traveling.
Hmm.
There are a lot of sites that create that kind of how-to's content. So we generally write content in partnership with them, what people are looking for, and then there's a natural inbound links that comes to our site. Even if it doesn't, that's totally.
You might have to help me out with this, but I saw maybe it was in a newsletter. Or maybe it was a LinkedIn post. I can't remember. They were basically saying that these listicles, best of, the top 10, whatever, these have been over the last probably 6 months. People have found out that listicles are cited all the time in LLMs.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Google now, as Google does, like if there's manipulation that's going on, they're going to step in and say, "Hey, you can't game the system like that." So
yeah.
it's not that listicles are going away or like they will be punished for being published, but it seems like there's a shift, from not listicles to everybody's doing listicles to now they're not going to be as relevant. Are there other sort of formatting or off-page kind of authority building like listicles that you've seen or that you're investing any sort of energy into?
No, primarily you covered that, Austin. The
Okay.
listicles, for example, long form content,
Hmm.
discussion forums. So that pretty much covers it. But again, it can be
Yeah.
across the board. Yeah. And
Okay.
it varies from industry to industry. But you're right. It has picked up a lot. But I will come back to the same thing is trust and authority, right? The
Hmm.
trust and authority comes back from, but at the same time, if you're getting a listicle from Ali.com, nobody cares, Reddit won't care about it.
Yeah.
Versus if it's coming from a CNN.com, right? So that's the important part of it that, hey, make it relevant, make it useful
Hmm.
for the users. Everything else comes together.
As we kind of wrap up the conversation here, Ali, I'm curious if there's anything that is still scratching your brain or itching your brain that you want to scratch on this conversation that we haven't quite touched on, or maybe you want to go a little bit deeper.
No, I think so. Tracking is definitely a big one that
Okay.
is on top of our mind to kind of how do we nail that, right? Because
Mm.
it's still very loosey goosey. Everybody comes up with their own version of it. So that is definitely top of mind because at the end of the day, especially if you are working towards it internally. There is an effort and resources that goes into doing, for example, content generation or certain execution that is for LLM model. Then obviously you expect KPIs and how to measure success, right?
Hmm.
So that is something is a big question mark. And I think so everybody's trying to figure it out. We are doing the way we discussed earlier. We will continue to do that and we will continue to get.
Are you using any specific tools that are available, let's say to the audience like Peak or Scrunch or, Profound or anything like that? Or is everything kind of internal and proprietary?
No, we are using. So obviously Google Analytics, we are using it for the bots, but we have working with third party vendors,
Yeah.
vendor actually. Other thing is also if you are working with SEO tracking tools, there are quite a few. Everybody has thrown their hats in the ring,
Yeah.
right? So they are doing a tracking.
Hmm.
But the thing is, again, you have to work with that partner to understand how they are doing it and how comfortable you are. The other one that I definitely want to call out for the audience just came in my mind is the Bing Webmaster Tools. It's free
Hmm.
and actually they have injected the AI piece of it. How much does the audience care about? But at least it's something that you can take a look at it from a benchmark perspective. So if you have the Bing Webmaster Search Console, it's already built in. You
Mm.
really don't have to do anything. It's add-on. That information is not piped into the existing API. API does not pull that information, but you can go into the platform and the front end, you should be able to see that
Mm.
because again, all of those tools can add up. So if it's a small size, mid-size companies, leverage the Bing Search Console or Bing Webmaster tools.
Yeah, I love that. Between Google Search Console and the Bing
Mhm.
Webmaster, I mean, you have the OG SERP, and then you also have like ChatGPT, with the
Yeah,
OpenAI Microsoft agreement. I think that pretty much covers it in terms of AI visibility. I mean, like you said, there are a bunch of different providers out there. A lot of
yeah.
the a lot of the traditional SEO metrics and visibility tracking tools have added obviously SEMrush, which was recently acquired, I think, by Adobe. Is that right? I don't know if it was
I
Adobe
think
or
so. Yes, you're right. They
yeah.
were like
So
6 months ago.
SEMrush obviously has AI tracking tools. Ahrefs now has AI tracking tools. Even
Yeah,
Digital Web Solutions has a platform called RankWatch that we're tracking LLM
recording.
visibility. Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
the question becomes is like everybody will have their own ways of measuring AI
Mm,
visibility. So
mhm,
the one of the tools we are working with, they look at some clickstream data.
mhm.
So they look at clickstream data, but again, that's also can be questionable. All depends. Everybody is looking in their own ways.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what shows up is the bottom line. So that's where we get into the MER, the marketing efficiency ratio, just total amount of marketing spend, and how does that translate to new inbound revenue. So, Ali Harris, where can we find out more about you and what you are doing these days?
Yeah, follow me on LinkedIn. Look me up. I have an ongoing newsletter I publish on a weekly basis. So follow me. And yeah, and keep the conversation going. So I
Yeah.
think so that is important. We all need to learn from each other. So if you are following me, just don't do follow me for the sake of following. Start the conversation with me. Reach out if you have any questions, because at this point, I think so the critical part is going to be we need to learn from each other
Hmm.
as we go along. So I definitely encourage it. Follow me at linkedin.com/ln/a Harris. And then, yeah,
Perfect. And you know what? Before we wrap up, I just want to make a point because I think it's really important. Even at eTail, which was a e-commerce, kind of conference, there was like 3,000 people there ish, 3,000 attendees. And Shop Talk, I think, is next weekend in Vegas, which is
yeah,
another 3 to 5,000 people. But it seems to me when I'm on LinkedIn, it just seems like my entire news feed is of people who are talking about Claude and Claude Bot and all these cool, like unique things. And it can give me a sense of like, man, I'm behind. Like, I'm not
yeah,
doing enough. But I want the audience to understand and just recognize, like, really, in the grand scheme of things, in the global economy of 8 billion people, how small of a group cutting edge marketers is. Like, it's not a lot of people.
you're right.
It can just seem like a lot and it can seem like you're behind. But if we're sharing information like this, I think it's just helping us as a whole, as an industry, improve. And there's plenty to go around at the end of the day. I think that's what it
You
comes
nailed it
down
off,
to.
man. And I think and you absolutely nailed, and that is important. The LinkedIn feeds can be so overwhelming. Sometimes,
Yeah.
like literally, I'm afraid of looking at that feed. I said, "Oh my god, what's going on?" The whole concept of FOMO is like exists right now.
Right.
I've spoken to boatload of people. My old colleague, they're asking, "Hey, where do I start from?
Yeah.
Just tell me where do I start from, right?"
Yeah.
And the thing is, again, it's not that difficult. You just have to baby steps. Just pick one thing and just go with it.
Yeah.
Everything will come together. And I'm more than happy to kind of again support anybody to kind of just brainstorm, talk through it. So absolutely. So it was
Yeah.
great, Austin, hopping on this podcast, talking to you. I hope the listener find this conversation useful.
Yeah, and I always love it. Thank you for being here. I always love it when guests invite the audience to connect with them. Like, even though, you have a high power position at a global company, like you're still accessible and you love talking about this stuff. I think that's what the message is for me. So, Ali,
Because
thank you.
at this point, I really feel it's a playing field for
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
right? So there's nobody who knows more or less. Everybody's trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So the thing is, again, let's huddle together and figure this thing out.
Yeah. Let's make it happen. Well, thank you for being here. Audience, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.